Hi again, everyone. Scott Pyre, pop cult fan here, and what I want to do for the next couple videos, I want to do two other reviews for two other movies in AnnaSophia Robb's filmography. Now, to prepare for Rebel Ridge, and this one movie that I want to review here is Sleepwalking, which came out back in 2008. So that was like 16 years ago? But yeah, this movie, like, it hits hard emotionally. This is actually a rated R film. There's a lot of profanity in it. I think that's mainly why it's rated R, just for the sheer fact that there's a lot of profanity. But this is an emotional ride. Like, it's basically a drama. It follows the character of James and his sister Jolene, and Jolene has a daughter named Tara, and there's a certain amount of depth, I guess, with a lot of the characters in this movie, and a lot of them, are going through a lot, especially Jolene, and as a result of the things that she's going through, she leaves James and Tara alone, and eventually James and Tara go on this road trip journey together. And at the beginning of the film, Tara doesn't really want anything to do with James, but then as the movie goes on, the two of them start to really care about each other, which is why, like, the premise, the kind of story that this is tackling is sort of similar to The Last of Us, which I noticed, as a fan of The Last of Us. I think this particular story, this particular premise, really did remind me of the kind of story that The Last of Us is like, and I can really see that, especially with Tara. I think she's a very she tries to be wiser than she is for her age, and as a result of that, she's a bit of a smart cookie in a way. And AnnaSophia Robb plays Tara. This was the first film that I saw in which I really saw Anna's talent as an actress, especially at such a young age. I thought she was phenomenal in this movie. And then, James, played by Nick Stahl, I'm sure people know him as John Connor in Terminator 3. And say what you will about that film, say what you will about his performance as John Connor in that film, but this is definitely a much better role. Like, he does so much better in this role, in this film. And he's going through a lot too. He's a good guy. Like, James is a good guy, but there's all these things just keep happening that, are really affecting him emotionally, and he's dealing with a lot. And now he has to, take care of Tara, and it's hard for him. It's hard for him. And there is a certain line of dialogue between James and his sister Jolene at the beginning of this film that made me cry a little. There were a couple times that I cried watching this movie, rewatching it as an adult. This was a very emotional film for me, after watching it yesterday, and it's a movie that I think is one of Anna's best performances throughout all the movies I've seen her in. This is one of her best performances to me, and she still has that good-hearted nature in her performance, in her role, but at the same time being a little bit more I guess depressed in a way, because there were times where her character was depressed, and there were moments where she was like, in a way, like hallucinating her mom. Like, there was this one scene where she was, maybe not hallucinating her mom, but I guess as the title of this movie suggests, sleepwalking, and how basically you're carrying on this memory of somebody, and it's haunting you, and believe me, I know what that's like as an adult. I relate to that. But yeah, and it was just really touching, there's a lot of touching moments in this movie throughout. And also in the third act, like, when we get to the barn, into the James's dad, I didn't really care for his character all that much. I mean, I kind of saw through his character a little bit when we first started to seeing him, and but he's not a good guy at all. Like the dad, oh wow, and it's understandable why her mom Jolene never wanted to go back there. It's understandable. Oh wow, but yeah, that's probably like my one biggest flaw with this movie is James's and Jolene's dad. I just, it was hard to watch a certain scene in this film, especially because it involved Tara. And I don't want to spoil it. I mean, I know this movie came out back in 2008, so it's been a while, but I don't want to spoil it. So, yeah, this was a very moving film. It was a very gut-wrenching film to me. And there were some really great moments, too, at the very end, you know, when James has to leave Tara by the end of the film, and there's a moment between him and Tara, and then Tara says something similar to her mom by the end of it, and it was just so moving and so powerful. And I love this film. This is one of my favorite films from when Anna was younger, and it's a phenomenal movie to me. I grade this movie an A. That'd be my grade for it. So, yeah. And then other actors in this movie, you know, Jolene, played by Charlize Theron, I thought she was great in her role too. Like, I've seen Charlize Theron quite a few times now in other movies, and this is one of the better performances I've seen her in as well. And I thought she was great in her role. And then also, you know, I've already said my piece of being biased towards AnnaSophia Robb, but you can really tell in this movie that she is very talented. She really is. And that's, and this, I think that's pretty much all my thoughts. You know, I know there were a couple other actors in this movie that I did recognize. I can't remember their names at the top of my head at the moment, but yeah, this was a phenomenal movie. It's an A grade for me. And then my next review will be for The Crash, which came out back in 2017. That's a lesser film. I'll give my thoughts on that tomorrow. I'll talk about that movie tomorrow. And also, one more thing before I end this off. You know, I mentioned this once before in this documentary video I did a while back, but another actor in this movie, Woody Harrelson, you know, I thought he chewed up the scenery when he was in the scenes. I loved him. You know, he was basically the comic relief of this film. That's another thing. And Woody Harrelson, you know, I mentioned this before, but a long time ago, my mom used to work in a hotel, and a long time ago, my mom told me she met Woody Harrelson once, a long time ago, and when he was like staying in this West End hotel, and my mom was helping him, and he was struggling with getting his credit card out. Kind of a funny story, but yeah. I always thought that was amusing and kind of funny when my mom told me she once met Woody Harrelson a long time ago when she used to work in a West End hotel. But yeah, so, oh, and one other thing, I gotta mention this before I close this off. Just one other thing. There's also this part of the film where Tara asks James to call her Nicole, and, you know, my sister's middle name is Nicole, so it was kind of funny and ironic when she started being called Nicole, because you know they were creating fake names, right? They were creating fake identities to stay out of the radar of the cops, and there were moments throughout the film where James would start calling Tara Nicole, and I just thought that was funny because my sister's middle name is Nicole, so I just thought that was funny and ironic. But yeah, alright, that should do it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my Crash review tomorrow. Alright guys, peace.